Welcome back. Today we are going to look at specific to finite dimensional nonlinear spaces. Let's quickly recollect. We have already said on this n-dimensional vector space whether you consider one norm or two norm or infinite norm. We have already proved these norms are all equivalent. In this discussion, we are going to show that it doesn't matter whatever norm that you take on Kn, they are all equivalent. So, in fact, more generally, we are going to prove on any finite dimensional nonlinear space, any two norms are equivalent. So, as a first step, let's prove that any two norms on Kn are equivalent. As we have already observed, norms being equivalent is an equivalence relation. Let's also recollect norm 1 and norm 2 are equivalent if there exist C1 and C2 positive such that for all x on the underlying space X, we have the following, that is C1 times norm x2 is less than or equal to norm x1, which is less than or equal to C2 times norm 1. Okay. So on the set of all norms on a particular space, two norms being equivalent is an equivalence relation. This we have verified. So first we'll say the following, it is enough to prove I fix a norm on Kn, and if you give me any other norm, and if I prove that any other norm is equivalent to this fixed norm, then we can prove any two norms are equivalent using the transitivity of the equivalence relation. So it's enough to prove, suppose I'm given with, say, eta is a norm, this is a norm, and we fix a well-known norm which is Euclidean norm. It's actually denoted by norm suffix 2, but let me use it as norm. This is the Euclidean norm. Given by norm of any element is given by, if x is containing n coordinates, then look at those coordinates and take the squares and then square root. Okay. This is what we called as the Euclidean norm. So we'll try to prove that this eta and this norm are equivalent. Which is equivalent to saying that you have to find out C1 and C2 such that eta times of x is less than or equal to theta times this Euclidean norm. So we need to find out C1 and C2. such that this is valid for all x. So that's what we will try to prove. So let's start the proof. Given that it is Kn, which is finite dimensional, and I know it has a basis, so let us call the basis as the standard basis. Standard basis of Kn. And given any x, I can write it as a linear combination of these elements, where each xi is a scalar, and this summation runs from 1 to n. Now first we'll try to prove that eta x is less than or equal to C2 times norm x. So I'll try to evaluate what is the eta of x. Remember, eta is a norm, so it has all the triangular inequality property. So eta of this expression this is like eta of x plus y is less than or equal to eta of x plus eta of y, since eta is a norm. So we get eta of xi ei. And notice that xi's are scalars and eta is a norm, so when it comes out it becomes modulus. So you can see that it is mod xi times eta of ei. Now we can do the following. Remember, I have to keep this in the mind. I am trying to prove that this finally is less than or equal to some C2 times the Euclidean. So if I have xi's, then it is fine. So eta of ei's I don't want. So I'll try to push it out by the following standard thing. So let's consider m is the maximum of all these eta i's. So everywhere I can replace by m, and I get the inequality as it is m times summation I equal to 1 to n mod xi. Now notice what is the connection between this mod xi and the Euclidean norm. So for that again let us do this. Note mod xi square is less than or equal to summation mod xi square. So if I take square roots on both sides, then I get this is the norm x. So in every mod xi I can actually replace the Euclidean norm of x. So if I do that, then this will be m times, each of them is norm x and they are all same, so there are n times of norm x, so I get finally m n times norm x. Okay, so I started with eta of x and now I could prove is less than or equal to m into n times norm x. Just clear that what is the C2. So my choice of C2 is, so take C2 equal to m times n. As a side remark, notice that at this place you can in fact apply Cauchy-Schwarz inequality to get even more better estimate. So that I leave it as an exercise. Okay, where you will get, it will be m times square root of n. Okay, that you can check. So we got one part of what we are supposed to do. We got a C2. Now I need to look for the, so we have achieved this part. Now we are trying to prove this part. So let me rewrite it again. So now what remains to prove is that there is a C1 such that this is less than or equal to eta times x, and this works out for all x. Before going further, let's look at this inequality, what we are set to prove. Is it clear that if I take x to be 0, for 0 vector it is true, it's trivial. Okay, whatever C1 and C2, if you check, it will work out. Now suppose, let's assume, suppose if I consider norm of x equal to 1, okay, then the above inequality becomes C1 time norm x is 1, which is less than eta of x. So if at all I prove for elements of norm 1, if I can get a C1 which is less than or equal to eta times x, then I am through. Then I can look for take any arbitrary element x, and I know how to get its norm to be 1 by normalizing. So maybe that's the process we will try to adopt. Notice that for all elements of norm 1, I need to find out a C1 which is less than or equal to eta of x. So consider the set S such that norm x equal to 1. Okay. So if I can prove for all the elements in S, eta of x is bigger than or equal to C1, which translates into other language, we need to find out a lower bound. So we need the lower bound of eta on S. We know that, notice that this S is the unit sphere in the norm linear space X with respect to the Euclidean norm. So we'll do the following. We'll use the fact what kind of this set is S and can we get something special. From Hahn-Borel theorem, it's clear that S is bounded and it's also closed. We know that, and hence it is compact. So S is compact. Okay. Later we will be calling this with a special name called, it's actually coming from local compactness. So right now from the Hahn-Borel theorem, S is a compact set. And so just recollect real analysis. If I could prove that eta as a function from this set S, if it is continuous, then on a compact set it will have maximum as well as minimum. So all that remains to check is that if we can prove eta is a continuous function on S, then we are done. So let's define that function. So now I am considering this same function eta from the set S to R, defined by, of course, eta of x equal to norm x. So notice some questions one can ask. Is it clear that this eta is not linear? Okay, that you can check it in two ways. Number one, eta x is a norm. So if I take eta of minus x also will be the same thing, which is, so it is doesn't behave like linear. Second is, notice the domain of the function right now. It's just a subset of original space X. It's not even a subspace, it's just a subset, and hence you cannot think of a linear map on just some arbitrary set. Okay. So it is not a linear map. So just as some map, we will try to evaluate whether it is a continuous function or not. So how do I go about checking? So I'll try to find out. So we claim eta is continuous. So we claim that eta is continuous on S. So for that I need to check f of x minus f of y. So eta x minus eta y. This is what I need to estimate. What is the norm? What is the metric on the other side? The metric on the other side is, so as a metric space we are trying. So let me take a minute. So what is the metric space here? It is the metric D that comes from the norm, Euclidean norm. And what is the metric here? It is the metric that comes from modulus. That's why this we are estimating. What do you know about this? Remember, eta is a norm and hence it satisfies the triangle inequality. One of the consequences of triangle inequality is norm of x minus norm of y is less than or equal to norm x minus y. So here it is the same expression. So eta of x minus eta of y is less than eta of x minus y. This comes from triangle inequality of eta as a norm. But what we have just now established, just look at the part. We have said that eta of x is less than or equal to mn times norm of x. So this will be less than or equal to mn times norm of x minus y. So in this case, as per our notation, it is mn times distance between x and y. So with respect to the metric on the domain, we could get such an inequality. And can you see that we have proved continuous? In fact, more is true. We have proved it is Lipschitz. So we have proved that this eta is a continuous function on this set, compact set S, and hence on a compact set it will have its maximum as well as minimum. Okay. C1 be the infimum of that minimum. Okay. On this set. And it has to be an element here. In fact, it becomes a minimum. That's what the information tells. And from that, is it clear that C1 is strictly positive? Because if at all, see, this is now it is becoming minimum of this, and this is 0. If C1 is 0, then eta of x has to be 0 for some x in S. But if eta is a norm, eta of x is 0, then x has to be 0. But the 0 is not in this set because all the elements in the set S are of norm 1, and hence C1 is strictly positive. And now this says that if so by definition this C1 has to be less than or equal to eta of x. This is true for all x in S. Now rest of the things are the routine. So take any x, answer element in x, and we know how to normalize it. Consider x by norm x. This will be an element of S. So for this element I have the information C1 is less than or equal to eta times this x by norm x, and eta is a norm and norm x is a scalar, so I can push it out. So you get C1 times norm x is less than or equal to eta times x. Okay. And this is what we want to prove it for all non-zero elements of the x, and hence we have proved the other part. This part which is what we have said to prove as this. And so we have proved the Euclidean norm is equivalent to the given norm eta, and hence any two norms are equivalent. Now, using this result, we would like to state that any two norms on any finite dimensional space are equivalent. Let X be finite dimensional. We want to prove that any two norms here are equivalent. Of course, we are going to use the result just now we have established. So the way that we are going to prove is that if I give you any two norms on X, we need to prove it is they are equivalent. Instead, we'll try to fix a particular norm in X and prove that any norm is equivalent to that norm. And hence, again, by the equivalence relations of equivalent norms, we could see any two norms are equivalent. So that fixed norm on this X is going to come from a known finite dimensional, which is the Kn. Okay. So let us make that clear. Now consider the Kn with the Euclidean norm. So using this norm on Kn, we'll induce or we'll create a norm on X that will be our fixed norm. And if you give me any other norm on X, we will prove that is equivalent to this norm. Okay, so we are going to create such a norm using the following information. From your basic linear algebra, you must be knowing this information. Consider the map T from Kn to X. Okay. How it is defined? Since X is finite dimensional, you will have a basis called V1, V2. Let's say the basis is Vn. The X is of dimension n. And for Kn, we already have the standard basis E1, E2, En. How we define the map? Define the map as T of Ei equal to Vi and extend it linearly, and you can see that this is a linear map. So check T is a linear map. It's also 1, 1 and onto. And hence it's an isomorphism. Now using this T, we are going to move between X and Kn. And first let's define a norm on X. So call that norm as P from the space X to real numbers defined by, say, P of X is defined as T inverse is a varied object. So T inverse of X is an element in Kn. So for that I will take the Euclidean norm. So the Euclidean norm of T inverse X is defined to be the P of X. Of course, we need to check it's actually a norm. What are the things to be checked? It's non-negative. And scalar multiple. Notice that the T inverse is also linear map, so you will get that. And triangle inequality, T inverse is a linear map, again you can split and write it. And definiteness, T is 1, 1, So T inverse of x, if it is 0, then you can show that x has to be 0. So you can, so this is a norm. So what we have achieved is x with this P is a norm linear space. Now on same x, some norm is given, call it as Q. So Q is a norm given. Our aim is to prove that P and Q are equivalent. Now in this case, remember on Kn any two norms are equivalent, we know. So using this Q norm on X, we will try to create a norm on Kn. So we are trying to create a norm. Let me use that as just with a single modulus. It's a norm on Kn, and we need to define norm of Z has to be defined through this Q norm. Okay, how do I achieve that? So Z is an element in Kn. I can take T of Z, that will be an element in X, and there I have the Q norm, so I can consider that. Look at what is Tz, which is an element in X, and then I can find out the norm of that in X. So this is the norm. Check. So again we need to check that this is actually a norm. First it is non-negative, clear, because Q is a norm. And definiteness, if Q of Tz is 0, then it says that Tz is 0. But if Tz is 0, then we know that Z has to be 0 because of oneness of T. And can you also see that scalar multiple, you get it from linearity of T and Q being a norm. And triangle inequality follows from T being linear and Q is a norm. Okay, so this is also a norm. And hence what we achieved is that on Kn with this is also a norm linear space. Now all is set. So on Kn we have two norms. One is the Euclidean norm, another one is this norm. And I know any two norms on Kn are equivalent, and hence there exist C1, C2 positive such that this is less than or equal to C2 times norm of Z, which is less than or equal to C1 times Euclidean norm of the Z. This is true for all Z in K. Okay, this follows from what we have just established. Any two norms on Kn are equivalent. Now all is set. All that I need to observe is that, is there any way that I can recognize this with norms that we have already established? Let us consider, let's say Tz. T is a map from K into X. So T of Z, suppose if I call this to be some X, then I want to rewrite this, the whole thing in this information. It is C1 times if I want to Z, then it is T in X. Okay, so it is T inverse of X, which is less than or equal to what is mod Z. Mod Z by definition is Q times Tz, and C2 times norm of Z is T inverse X. But again go back, what is this norm of T inverse X? Norm of T inverse X is nothing but the P of X. So we got C1 times P of X, is less than or equal to q times tz, which is less than or equal to c2 times p of x. So we are almost through. If we get this q of tz as q of x, what is q of tz? Tz is actually defined as x, and hence is that clear that this is actually equal to q of x? So we have proved that p and q are equivalent norms on x. Look at that, this is true for all x in the space x that we have started with, and every x, of course, I can write it as tz for some z, and hence this is true. So we have proved on a finite dimensional nonlinear space any two norms are equivalent. So using this information, it's easy to establish the following, that any finite dimensional nonlinear space is complete. That is, any finite dimensional nonlinear space is a Banach space. The idea is clear. Suppose I am given with x finite dimensional nonlinear space, and you are, let's say, given with a sequence xn, a Cauchy sequence, in x, say with some particular norm. So I'll consider xq is the given norm. So xn is Cauchy sequence in x with respect to q norm. Now the idea is clear. What I need to do, we have to send this sequence to a known space. We are going to use the fact that Kn is complete. As we have already established, P is equivalent to Q now, and equivalent norms preserve the Cauchiness. Hence we can also say that Xn, a Cauchy sequence, in X with respect to P norm as well, which is same as saying P of Xn Xm, this goes to 0 as Cn and M goes to infinity. But let's look at how the P norm is actually defined using the Euclidean norm. So P of x is defined to be equal to this. So I'm just rewriting. So P of xn minus xn by definition is T inverse of xn minus xn. But I know T inverse is linear, so I can say that it is T inverse of xn minus T inverse of x, the Euclidean norm. So this goes to 0. And hence what we get in Euclidean norm, this sequence T inverse of xn, this is a Cauchy sequence in Kn again with respect to the Euclidean now. And I know that Kn is complete, so it should converge to some element, call it as say y. So it should converge to an element say y, but it is in Kn, so, and T is an isomorphism, and hence it has to be T inverse of x. So our claim is that this xn has to converge to, so this xn should converge to x. Yes. Now you need to check what is p of xn minus x. We want to prove that this converges in P now. But by definition, P of xn minus x is nothing but T inverse of xn minus x, but that is same as T inverse of xn minus T inverse of x. But that is how we got T inverse of xn converges to this. So this goes to 0 as n tends to infinity. So xn converges to x in P norm, and again use the fact that Q norm is equivalent to P norm, and equivalent norms preserves the convergence. Hence we get xn converges to x in Q norm. That's what we actually need to establish. We have started with xn is a Cauchy sequence in x with respect to Q norm. Now we have proved that this xn actually converges to an element x in Q norm in the space x. Hence x with this Q norm is complete. And hence we have proved, given any norm on a finite dimensional norm linear space, it's a complete norm linear space. One can get few more results like any finite dimensional. This I will leave it for you to check. Any finite dimensional space, any finite dimensional norm linear space is closed. Remember, we already proved it is complete. You need to establish that. Okay. As a second result, using the T that we have created between x and kn, and we can show that T is isomorphism, and it's also an isohomeomorphism, and homeomorphic between two spaces is also an equivalence relation. And using the transitivity, we could prove the following, that any two finite dimensional spaces of same dimension are homeomorphic. The idea is clear. Given any finite dimensional space, say x with finite x is a dimension n and y is a dimension n, you want to show that they are homeomorphic. So show that xn is homeomorphic to kn, and you can prove y is also, and hence y is also homeomorphic to kn, and join them to get x and y are homeomorphic. Okay, we'll stop at this stage.